कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीरा बनचारी। यमुना तीरा बनचारी। जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीरा बनचारी। जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी। जय श्री श्री राधा माधव की जय। श्री श्री रुक्मिणी द्वारकाधीश की जय। जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा की जय। श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। Reading from Canto 3, Chapter 27, Text 30 of Srimad Bhagavatam. The chapter is entitled Understanding Material Nature. Okay, we're almost there. यदा यदा न योगोपचितासु चेतो मायासु सिद्धस्य विसज्जते अंगा अनन्य हेतुष्वत में गतिः स्यात् आत्यन्तिकी यत्र न मृत्युहासः यदा न योगोपचितासु चेतो मायासु सिद्धस्य विसज्जते अंगा अनन्य हेतुष्वत में गतिः स्यात् आत्यन्तिकी यत्र न मृत्युहासः यदा न योगोपचितासु चेतो मायासु सिद्धस्य विसज्जते अंगा अनन्य हेतुष्वत में गतिः स्यात् आत्यन्तिकी यत्र न मृत्युहासः यदा न योगोपचितासु चेतो मायासु सिद्धस्य विसज्जते अंगा अनन्य हेतुष्वत में गति स्यात् आत्यन्तिकी यत्र न मृत्युहासः न योगोपचितासु चेतो मायासु सिद्धस्य विसज्जते अंगा हेतुष्वत में गति स्यात् आत्यन्तिकी यत्र न मृत्युहासः यदा न योगोपचितासु चेतो मायासु सिद्धस्य विसज्जते अंगा अनन्य हेतुष्वत में गति स्यात् आत्यन्तिकी यत्र न मृत्युहासः। वैष्णवी यदा न योगोपचितासु चेतो मायासु सिद्धस्य विसज्जते अंगा अनन्य हेतुष्वत में गतिः स्यात् आत्यन्तिकी यत्र न मृत्युहासः यदा न योगोपचितासु चेतो मायासु सिद्धस्य विसज्जते अंगा अनन्य हेतुष्वत में गतिः स्यात् आत्यन्तिकी यत्र न मृत्युहासः यदा when not yoga upachitasu to powers developed by yoga chetah the attention mayasu manifestations of maya siddhasya of a perfect yogi visajjate is attracted, Anga, my dear mother, Ananya Hetushu, having no other cause, Atha, then, me, may, to me, Gatihi, his progress, Syat, becomes, Atyantiki, unlimited. Yatra, where, na, not, mrityuhasaha, power of death. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. When a perfect yogi's attention is no longer attracted to the byproducts of mystic powers, which are manifestations of the external energy, his progress towards me becomes unlimited, and thus the power of death cannot overcome him. Purport. Yogis are generally attracted to the byproducts of mystic yogic power, for they can become smaller than the smallest or greater than the greatest, achieve anything they desire, have power even to create a planet or bring anyone they like under their subjection. Yogis who have incomplete information of the result of devotional service are attracted by these powers, but these powers are material. They have nothing to do with spiritual progress. As other material powers are created by the material energy, mystic yogic powers are also material. A perfect yogi's mind is not attracted by any material power, but is simply attracted by unalloyed service to the Supreme Lord. For a devotee, the process of merging into the Brahman effulgence is considered to be hellish. And yogic power, or the preliminary perfection of yogic power, to be able to control the senses, is automatically achieved. As for elevation to higher planets, a devotee considers this to be simply hallucinatory. A devotee's attention is concentrated only upon the eternal loving service of the Lord, and therefore the power of death has no influence over him. In such a devotional state, a perfect yogi can attain the status of immortal knowledge and bliss. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 3rd canto, 27th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Understanding Material Nature. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namne. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasha Pradesh. Hare Krishna. I'm here encouraged by Archita Prabhu. This whole community has been so encouraging to me ever since we moved here 22 years ago. So Vas Prabhu is at the top of that list. He has always encouraged me and helped me in my devotional life and my whole family's devotional life. And Bhrigupati Prabhu, who is not here, he said he'll be coming back shortly. There he is. He has been encouraging me, as you know, even though I cannot sing properly, but he encourages me to sing. So I'm so grateful to all of you. And I trust and I request and I pray that you will please overlook my shortcomings and focus on the message of Srimad Bhagavatam and Srila Prabhupada's purports and understanding that he has given, like we all do with our little Shyam Sundar Das. When he says Hare Krishna, nobody finds fault with him, right? We're all happy. I'm in the same lineage. I'm related to Shyam Sundar Das. I'm his grandfather. Okay. So on that note, please allow me to say a few words for my own purification. Thank you. So Archita Prabhu encouraged me to give a kind of a summary of this chapter or bring us up to speed as to where we are in this section. This, as you know, this section is teachings of Lord Kapil Dev to Mother Devahuti. So Lord Kapil Dev, who appeared as son to Mother Devahuti, Mother Devahuti had the humility to request her own son, Kapil Dev, to give instructions on how she can make progress in spiritual life. She had few questions that we will go over. So this section started in chapter 25, where Mother Devahuti asked a question. She said, I am bewildered by your material energy. So please tell me, I'm disturbed by it. Please tell me how I can get out of this material energy. So that was her first question. And Kapil Dev said, as you can all guess, the answer is devotional service in association of devotees. And there are wonderful verses in chapter 25 that talk about these glorious devotees who can help us with our devotional practices. So that was her first question. Her second question was, of these, the devotional service that you have mentioned, what kind of devotional service should I do to attain you very easily? How can I attain your lotus feet easily? And what kind of devotional service should I practice? And the answer to that question was spontaneous devotional service with bhava. So if you have bhava, with that you can easily attain me. And those who are not at that stage yet, they can practice what is called the regulated devotional service, Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. So doing devotional service with regulative principles, following regulative principles. Then she asked another question, and that was actually, these two questions were together about what type of devotional service. She also asked, you mentioned about this yoga system. Can you please tell me different ways of yoga system? What are these different ways of yoga system? And Lord Kapil, he kind of went over this whole chapter 26, talking about the Sankhya yoga system through analytical study, and he talked about Jnana Yoga in that, and also a little bit of mystic yoga. And he then basically carries over to this 27th chapter that we are in, and he talks about the cause of bondage of living entity. So we are all living entities. How are we conditioned in this material world? Why are we conditioned even though we are a pure spirit soul? And he says the reason we are conditioned is because of our false ego, because we consider ourselves to be the doer, and for that reason we are transmigrating. But there is a solution out of it, and the solution is, again, devotional service. And if you can use the knowledge that I have given you and combine that with devotional service, develop some detachment, you'll be able to get out of this. And he then goes on to describe the qualities of jnanis, those who are in knowledge, and how through those practicing that path of jnana yoga, you can develop those qualities, and they help us in our emancipation. And after that, he says that the soul is pure, but it appears to be covered. And the covering is so strong that it's only when the soul is in deep sleep or at the time of dissolution, meaning when we die, that's the only time we can kind of get out of that misunderstanding or get out of that material covering. So that false ego is really kind of binding us. It's very deeply kind of attached to the spirit soul. And it's for that reason that, we are basically in this material world and we are acting the way we act. So when he says this, Devahuti asks another question, a two-part question. Devahuti says, if this material nature, the modes of material nature, they bind or they're so close to the spirit soul, the spirit soul can't even exist in this material world without having a gross body and subtle body, then how can these two be separated? How can I detach myself from the material modes of nature? How can I be free from false ego when they're so kind of intricately intertwined? And secondly, she says that, okay, even through the knowledge that you have given, I can convince myself that I am not this body, I'm the spirit soul. How will I keep away the fear of that bondage coming back to me? So theoretically, I may be able to understand, I'm not this body. But that fear of bondage means fear of coming back into this material world, birth and death, cycle of birth and death. That's our bondage with material nature that keeps us coming back. So how can I overcome that fear of death or fear of bondage? So very pertinent questions that she asked, and the great answers that Kapil Dev gave. He said for the first one, the liberation is again possible through Tivrena Bhakti Yogena, through intense devotional service, again coupled with Gyan, coupled with this understanding that I gave you. And the second part that she asked is, how can I overcome this fear? Kapil Dev answers that question starting with text 24 onwards. And he says that the souls who are enlightened, the enlightened souls, meaning those who are self-realized souls, the material nature actually fears them. So material nature is afraid of these enlightened souls. Now, the natural question is, how do we become enlightened? And Kapil Dev answers that question without her asking that question. He says, you get enlightened by my mercy. So it's by the Lord's mercy that we become enlightened, and it is through that we can keep that fear of bondage or fear of coming back into this world or fear of death away from us. Now to this verse, text 30, where Prabhupada has given a beautiful purport, as he always does. There are a few things that I would like to talk about. One thing that Prabhupada mentions here is the perfect yogi. A perfect yogi can attain the status of, the last sentence in the purport was part of the sentence. In such a devotional state, a perfect yogi can attain the status of immortal knowledge and bliss. That immortal knowledge and bliss is English translation of Sat, Chit, and Anand. Anand is bliss, Chit is knowledge, and Sat is immortal, eternal. So a perfect yogi. So who is a perfect yogi? We know from Bhagavad Gita as well, chapter 6, text 46 and 47, where Krishna tells Arjuna, Tapasvi bhyo adhiko yogi, jnani bhyo api mato adhika, karmi bhyascha adhiko yogi, tasmat yogi bhav Arjuna. Then he continues, yoginam api sarvesham madgaten antaratmana, shraddhavan bhajate yomam, sa me yukta tamo matah. So he says, better than a tapasvi, better than an ascetic, is a yogi. And better than a jnani, or better than jnanis, actually he's using the plural, better than jnanis is a yogi. Better than karmis is a yogi. Better than jnanis, those who are going after speculative knowledge. And karmis are those who are fruitive workers. So better than fruitive work is a yogi. And then he says, yogi nam api sarvesham, among all the yogis, yogi nam api sarvesham madgaten antaratmana, the one who thinks of me within and who comes to me, madgaten antaratmana, shraddhavan bhajate yomam. So this is the key punchline. Shraddhavan bhajate yomam. Those who do my bhajan, those who worship me with shraddha, with faith, sa me yukta tamo mata. So that yogi is the most united yogi with me. The word yoga means to unite, and yogi is one who is in union with the Supreme. And so such a person is in complete union, the one who does bhajan with shraddha. So that's the perfect yogi that Prabhupada is talking about, that we also know from Bhagavad Gita. The other thing that Prabhupada talked about, and also the verse talks about, that these mystic yogis, if they are no longer attracted by the byproducts of mystic powers. So then Prabhupada gives the example of these mystic powers, can become smaller than the smallest, greater than the greatest, etc. So if they are free from these mystic powers, then their progress towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead is unlimited. So we are in some ways yogis, we are Shraddhavan yogis. So what is, I don't think any one of us is desiring to have those mystic powers, to create our own planet, etc. But, and I'm speaking for myself, that as a manager in ISKCON, someone who has some responsibility, we do get some powers. These powers are, as you all know, is the power that comes with the position, power to reward, or power to sometimes chastise others, and the referent power, because we are in a managerial position, we get to know all these great devotees, leaders, other leaders in ISKCON, and other sannyasis who come through. So through all of this, there is a potential for misuse of power, or this power getting to our head. And the power that I am particularly careful about and worried about is the power that's given to us by other devotees, or given to me by other devotees, and that's called adoration, some type of benefits that are given to me, and some type of prestige that comes with the position. In Sanskrit, it's called puja, labh, pratishtha. These are subtle powers. They are not kind of direct powers. So these subtle powers can distract me from my path of devotional service. So if I follow the advice of Lord Kapil Dev and Prabhupada's advice in the purport, if I keep these byproducts that come with my service in ISKCON, if I keep them away, then my progress towards Krishna can become unlimited. So that was one point that I wanted to share with me, my realization from this verse. The other thing that is mentioned here is, that Prabhupada mentions, is the unalloyed devotional service. And we all know what that unalloyed devotional service is. So kind of continuing from this point that I just talked about, this fear or this danger of getting bewildered by or getting distracted by the so-called power. What can we do? We can remind ourselves of those two verses that are in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, one taken from the Narad Pancharatra, 1.1.11 and 1.1.12. So we'll start with 1.1.12 first, where it says, Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tat paratvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktir uchyate. So the bhakti that we are aspiring for is by engaging our senses in the service of the master of the senses. And we want that bhakti to be sarvopadi vinirmuktam. It should be free from all designations, all the upadhis that I get in ISKCON, being a manager or being a this, being that. I have to remove all those upadhis, and nirmalam, it should be without any contamination, without any tinge of personal desire. If I can do that, that will become my unalloyed devotional service. And the other one that goes with it is Anya Vilashita Shunyam Gyan Karmadi Anavritam Anukulyena Krishnanu Anushilnam Bhaktir Uttama. So that Uttam Bhakti, the pure devotional service, unalloyed devotional service is defined there, is when we have no other desire but to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thinking of Him favorably and following in the footsteps of others who have served Him before us. So this is the process that we are already aware of, but I need to remind myself of this. And the last part that I would like to talk about is this power of death that cannot overcome a devotee. And it was also Mother Devahuti's question as to how can we overcome that fear. There was a study done in 2024, this year. The study is done every year, about the top 10 fears that people in America feel. So of those top 10 fears, the scale is I'm not at all afraid, somewhat afraid, I'm afraid, very afraid. So this is done around the nation. And the top 10 fears, of the top 10, 7 of them are related to fear of death, our own death, or death of a loved one. Now, what is death? Death is loss of existence. So any fear of loss in general, so fear of loss, fear of losing a loved one, fear of losing our own selves, fear of losing our wealth, fear of losing our position, etc. These are all part of that. So 7 out of 10, and they are top 10, and a majority, more than 50% of people fear that. Fearing attack from Russia, fearing attack from some other nation. So these are all, or fear of a war that will lead to eventually death. So that's how powerful this fear of death is. And again, from Bhagavad Gita, we know early on in chapter 2, when Krishna started to introduce Buddhi Yoga, what Prabhupada translates as devotional service, after he had described Sankhya Yoga, he says in 240, Neha vikramanasho asti pratyavayo na vidyate swalpam apiyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. So he says on this path that he's going to describe, a little bit of progress will trayate mahato bhayat. It will get you free from the greatest fear. So now we just heard the greatest fear that people are feeling is fear of death. And so a little bit of progress on this path. And what is that path? The path of devotional service. And he says, on this path, neha abhikramanasho asti. There is no loss and there is no diminution. Okay. So once you start progressing on it, whatever progress you make, that will remain with you. So that's the glory of this devotional service that we are a part of. Now today is Christmas Day, and yesterday when Bhrigupati Prabhu was giving the class, I was not here in the room, but I was listening outside. He was reading Prabhupada's purports or lectures referencing Christmas. And Archita Prabhu cautioned us that in Bangladesh, ISKCON is being kind of targeted because we are too close to Christians. Anyway, I want to share something with you. It's Prabhupada's lecture given in 1968 on December 2nd. 1968, this temple wasn't there. The Pico Boulevard temple also was kind of taken away. We haven't not moved into La Cienega. And Prabhupada was in a garage when he was lecturing. And Prabhupada says, so we have limited time, about 3 minutes, so I'll just read a few things that are relevant to Christmas and to other religions. Therefore, this Krishna consciousness movement is postgraduate position of all religion. And he says this because prior to that he says that we are simply helping that you try to love God, then you will be happy. He says that's our mission. So we're telling everybody, try to love God, you will be happy. That's our mission. Then he says, therefore this Krishna consciousness movement is postgraduate position of all religion. You accept Christianity, very good. You accept Mohammedanism, Islamism, very good. You accept Hinduism, that's all right. We have no quarrel with Hindus and Muslims or Christians or Buddhists. But our objective is that religion means there is connection, relationship with God. Take, for example, Christian religion. They accept God. God created this, the beginning of Bible. That's a fact. So the God consciousness is there. God is great. The God consciousness there. Now these Christmas holidays you have begun in your country. Throughout the whole month of December, you will observe nice festivals, festivities. Why? Where it began? God consciousness. Lord Christ, He came to give you God consciousness. And in His relationship, these festivities are going on. It may be degraded in another form, but the beginning is God consciousness. So we have lost it. So people cannot be happy without reviving God consciousness. It may be named in a different way, Krishna consciousness. That means God consciousness. That is the necessity. He is trying to love somebody. That somebody's love will be perfected when he loves Krishna or God. We are teaching that. Try to love God, and if you love God, if you love Krishna, then automatically you love everybody. That is the perfection of love. The example is just like if you love your stomach, if you supply nice food to your stomach, that means you love all the parts of your body. If you supply food stuff in the stomach, the energy is distributed in all parts of the body. That means you love all parts of the body. If you love the tree, you pour water on the root, and the water is distributed to the branches, fruits, flowers, leaves, everywhere. So you try to love God, and you will see that you are loving even an ant. And then he gives the example of that hunter who was taking pleasure in killing animals. And he goes on, and then he says, to become lover of God means fully enlightened in consciousness. He sees that here is an ant. This living entity, a small living entity, is also part and parcel. By his own work, he has got this insignificant body as an ant. I have got this human form of body. But that does not make any difference between the soul and the soul. So he's talking about the soul in the human body and the soul in the ant's body. And he says, when a man actually becomes learned, he is samadarshina. He sees everyone on the equal level. And now he says, I was seeing just this evening the 10 commandments. Now in the 10 commandments, the one commandment is, thou shalt not kill. But I'm sorry to feel that killing propensity is so great in the Christian world. Why? Because there is lack of love of God. That thou shalt not kill, and now there is organized killing process. So I do not know how they are following the Christian principles. It's clearly stated, thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not tease your neighbor. So why should I tease an animal neighbor? These defects are due to lack of love of God. Now we are seeing India and Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Russia, Ukraine. These are all neighboring countries. And they are just teasing their neighbors. Prabhupada is saying, don't tease your animal neighbor. So that's the message that Prabhupada has for this whole world. And he says, therefore, the whole problems of the world can be solved only by this movement, how to love God. And then Prabhupada talks about, he's walking by United Nations, and he sees these flags, and he says, I'm seeing these flags increasing day by day. But there is no peace in the world. And he actually talks about India when it was, joined with Pakistan, Bangladesh, all one nation. He said there was only one flag. Now it has become 2. And Prabhupada says it will become, in the future, it will become 4. So when he wrote this purport, there were 2. There were Pakistan and India, and then became Bangladesh. And who knows now what the 4th one is? Well, the point here is that if we treat our neighbors as ourselves, as says the Bible, love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. So that's the common message through all these religions that Prabhupada is pointing out. This was early on in 1968 when he had not even established this temple or any big temple yet. So on that note, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, and ISKCON New Dwarka ki jai, ISKCON New Dwarka devotees ki jai. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.